Hey, the Circle of Hope pastors are here. We have a very interesting question to answer this week. We try to answer questions every so often that people ask us. This one is particularly stimulating. How much conflict may I have with God? What do you think about this? Does anyone know anything?
Johnny, you can have as much conflict with God as you want. You may. Conflict is definitely an indicator of your relationship with God. Everyone, I think, knows in their intimate relationships that those are the ones that we feel safe enough to have a fight in, because we know that the other person loves us and they're not going to leave us, or they have some allegiance to us, so that we're not just keeping ourselves safe. So I think conflict with God is a demonstration of intimacy, and it's a good indicator that you actually know God.
Totally. It removes God from the ephemeral and abstract and actually makes God into someone with whom you can have a conflict. That's really interesting.
It also reveals a lot about who we think God is. I think it's good to have the feelings that we're feeling and name them, because, our emotional response to God reveals a lot about who we think God is and the character of God.
It's good to work out, like what Julie's talking about, with other people. I think a dangerous place for a lot of us is when we have some kind of thing that we categorize as a conflict with God, and then we just work it out on our own because we're either too private about it for a number of reasons, but then it grows a hardness in our heart that we should be careful of.
Yeah, I'm thinking, as you guys are talking, that we're probably always having a conflict with God. If God is like continually calling us to more life, accepting us as we are, but inviting us to receive his love and be filled by it and empowered, we're consciously or unconsciously resistant to that, probably at little points along our journey. And the more consciously we can have that conflict and be aware of our resistance and work it out by relating to God and community, probably the further we'll get.
Yeah, but that's really hard because I don't want to get aware of all of my crap like that, like that.
No doubt.
Most people aren't having like a conscious conflict with God. They're having that like low simmer, I'm not so sure about this guy, or if he's a guy, or or even a one. It's like it's happening underneath, and I'm having all these unconscious reactions. So like getting it out there and saying, "This is my problem," and then like you were saying, Julie, that actually says, I'm accusing God and I got my three fingers coming back at me because it's actually a problem that I'm having, and I don't really want to deal with those problems. I think that's where people are at.
That's a good way to have a healthy conflict, at all with anybody. If you imagine God like a real person, having a conflict, you can learn how to have other conflicts too. It's much easier to change someone else in your mind than it is to change yourself. So you might even form the image of God you have based on your own private circumstance, and not rooted in something more mutual with God and with community. So it's easier for me to imagine who God might be to avoid a conflict with him than to actually do the internal work I need to do to change how I need to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Most of those God images that you're talking about are subconscious. Most of the time, if you were to have your God image, if you were asked to write it out, you would come up with something different than what you feel in your heart. But our faith, even in our relationship to God, I think molts. It's alive. It's a living thing. And as we grow on that journey, there are ideas that we have that need to sort of die away in developmental stages too. So it's okay for your God view to change, to adapt because of new experiences. I think that's healthy.
And I think it's important to remember that God is present and not going anywhere, not going to give up on us if we let things get too crazy for us consciously or something, that God is not, that God is in this relationship and loves us.
Yeah, it sounds like if you're having conflict with God at all, these pastors think that's a cool thing. That's a good thing, and it shows your own character, depth of faith, convictions. I think that's positive. So, you know,
Johnny, one practical thing maybe to end with is
go ahead, end us, Julie.
Of the prayer. I think it's a Franciscan prayer of who am I, God, and who are you? And I think if we can ask that prayer and actually like name it and tie it to our tangible day and our moment, that we will see that it does change, that who we are changes, how we understand God changes, and it can help us kind of move and grow without getting too stuck.
Yeah, and the rhythm of doing that gets at what Joshua was talking about, like the subconscious. If you're asking that question, what is it today? Absolutely. It actually it helps you get at the thing that you don't know.
Well, this is pretty great. I thank you for the stimulating conversation. I feel edified already. If you did, well, please share it around. Let other people see it. Like us, subscribe to this on YouTube. There's a lot of ways to connect. Keep asking us questions. We're happy to answer them. See you next time.